Have you ever wondered why it's so difficult to pull kids and teens away from their screens? Why do they spend countless hours scrolling through social media, watching videos, or gaming, often at the expense of their mental well-being? The anxious generation takes a deep dive into the ways smartphones and social media have fundamentally altered childhood and adolescence, revealing why anxiety, depression, and other mental health challenges are skyrocketing among young people. But here's the thing, this issue doesn't just affect kids. It's a wake-up call for parents, teachers, and society as a whole. Think about it. As adults, we often feel overwhelmed by technology, but we have the ability to set boundaries for ourselves, whether that's deleting an app or limiting screen time. For children and teens, however, it's a completely different story. Their brains are still developing, and their ability to regulate their own behavior is limited. Without intervention, they can easily lose hours to their devices, unaware of the long-term consequences. Have you noticed how screen time seems to replace essential activities like sleep, physical exercise, and face-to-face interactions? Imagine the impact this has on their social and emotional development. Is the damage permanent? That's the big question. Can we help kids break free from this digital dependency? In this summary, we'll explore what draws children and teens to their devices, how social media affects their mental and emotional health, and, most importantly, what we can do to reverse the damage. Stay with us to uncover practical strategies that could reshape how we guide the next generation through this digital landscape. If you're ready to dive into this urgent conversation, let's begin. A tidal wave of concern. Parents today are more worried than ever about their children's relationship with technology. The internet has made it easy for almost anyone to develop an attachment to their devices, but for kids and teens, this attachment often turns into a full-blown dependence. What's truly alarming is how young people react when their screen time is restricted. Picture this. A child's iPad is taken away, and they immediately throw a tantrum until their parents give in. Teenagers, on the other hand, face even higher stakes. Some go as far as threatening self-harm if their phones are confiscated. This paints a grim picture of just how deeply technology has woven itself into their lives. Parents often say their children have changed, becoming more irritable, withdrawn, or angry. In many cases, they exhibit all three behaviors. Families everywhere are struggling to cope with this shift. According to authors Jonathan Haidt and Greg Lukianoff, anxiety has become a major catalyst for a range of mental health issues in teens. Between 2004 and 2016, the number of adolescents experiencing depression surged, with a particularly sharp rise around 2010. Researchers discovered this trend through surveys that asked teens if they frequently felt sad, empty, or depressed. The results were strikingly similar across all demographics, regardless of race or social class. What changed in 2010? That's the key question. What triggered this wave of mental health issues? Feeling anxious or down from time to time is a normal part of life. But when these emotions become overwhelming and persistent, they can develop into serious disorders. Today, anxiety levels among teens are at an all-time high. Anxiety itself has deep evolutionary roots. Our ancestors needed to stay hyper-aware of their surroundings to survive. However, there's a big difference between real and perceived threats. A real threat is an immediate danger, while a perceived threat is often exaggerated or even imaginary. Yet it can trigger the same intense physical responses, such as tension, fatigue, or paralyzing fear. One of the most common perceived threats among teenagers today is social rejection. Many young people fear being left out or not belonging to a group. This sense of social disconnection can lead directly to depression. The rise of social media and smartphones. Depression, often linked with anxiety, is another serious mental health concern. It manifests as persistent sadness, a lack of interest in activities, and an overall sense of hopelessness. While anxiety and depression can sometimes be managed, professional diagnosis and intervention are essential for effective treatment. A major contributor to teenage depression is social disconnection, the feeling of being isolated from others. Those who don't feel a strong sense of belonging often spiral into emotional distress. And this brings us back to a pivotal moment in history, the early 2010s. Two key events shaped this era. Teenage mental health issues began rising sharply. Smartphones and social media became a household staple. Yes, mobile phones existed before 2010, but they were primarily used for calls and texts. The introduction of smartphones, combined with the explosion of social media apps, changed everything. By 2010, being constantly connected was no longer an option. It had become the norm, especially for teenagers. They feared missing out on something important if they weren't online. Several studies backed this claim. A report by Common Sense Media, a nonprofit organization, revealed that by February 2016, 79% of teens in the US owned a smartphone. Further studies found that teens spent most of their time on social media. In fact, Common Sense Media noted that teens spent an average of 7 hours a day on these platforms. Yet, despite mounting evidence, no single theory fully explains why social media use correlates with a rise in mental health disorders. What is it about this digital age that makes the situation so dangerous? The backstory. There's no doubt that constant use of the internet and social media has a detrimental effect on a child's development. But have you ever wondered how much childhood has changed for kids growing up in the smartphone era compared to those raised before its arrival? To understand this shift, we need to explore 4 key features of childhood that are being profoundly disrupted today. 1. Slow-growing childhood. Human childhood, unlike that of most animals, is remarkably slow. Animals mature quickly, entering puberty early and reproducing as soon as possible. From an evolutionary perspective, this makes sense. Survival is about passing on genes. So why does it take humans so long to grow up? The answer lies in our evolutionary journey. Early humans had large jaws and guts to chew and digest raw food. But once humans discovered cooking, chewing and digestion became easier. Over time, our jaws and guts shrank, and in their place, our brains grew larger. Humans developed the ability to learn, which became a significant evolutionary advantage. We didn't need to grow up quickly because survival depended on acquiring knowledge and skills through interaction and observation. 2. Free play. Free play is one of the most critical aspects of childhood development. It's the unstructured, self-directed activity that allows children to develop cognitive, social, and emotional skills. Running, hiding, and playing games like tag not only improve motor skills, but also teach kids how to handle conflict, negotiate, and empathize with others. Author Jonathan Haidt introduces the concept of a play-based childhood where kids interact with their environment in a low-risk setting. The opposite of this is a phone-based childhood where kids spend more time glued to their screens than engaging in real-world play. 3. Attunement. Attunement is the ability to bond with others, sharing emotions, happiness, and even struggles. A child's laughter can light up a room, and their mood often mirrors the emotions of those around them. When kids play on a playground, their feelings are shaped by the group dynamic, fostering a sense of connection. But a phone-based childhood disrupts this natural bonding. Imagine a child spending time with their family, but constantly getting distracted by phone notifications. These interruptions erode real-life connections and replace them with superficial digital interactions. Attunement also promotes shared joy, like singing, dancing, or simply being present with others. Phones take away the simple yet impactful aspect of life, isolating kids in their own digital bubbles. For social learning happens when children observe and imitate others to understand how to navigate the world. Kids naturally copy their role models, learning what is acceptable behavior. However, for this to work, kids must choose the right people to emulate. In a phone-based childhood, social learning becomes increasingly complex. Teenagers often mimic popular social media influencers, not because they admire them, but because their peers are doing the same. This herd mentality makes teens susceptible to copying harmful behaviors they see online. For instance, an influencer might post a video of themselves disrespecting their parents as a joke. A teenager watching this might initially recognize it as wrong, but is swayed by the thousands of likes, comments, and shares. They think, if everyone else is doing it, why shouldn't I? This type of social learning driven by online trends can have damaging effects. Kids and teens end up emulating people based on popularity rather than substance, which shapes their behavior, thoughts, and emotional responses in unhealthy ways. The shift from a play-based to a phone-based childhood is not just a change, it's a crisis. Kids today are losing out on opportunities to develop essential skills through free play, meaningful relationships through attunement, and healthy behaviors through social learning. Instead, They are left in a digital landscape that prioritizes likes and trends over real connection and growth. The Great Rewiring. The shift to a phone-based childhood began subtly as people gradually became attached to basic cell phones. According to the author, this transformation accelerated in the early 2010s. In the early 2000s, phones were primarily tools for making calls or sending a few text messages. They didn't hold our attention for long. But with system upgrades and the rise of applications, phones became more engaging and addictive. By February 2014, the Google Play Store and Apple App Store offered over 1 million apps, making endless scrolling through games, videos, and social media the norm. At the same time, social media platforms like Facebook, MySpace, and Friendster underwent significant upgrades. Although these platforms existed before February 2010, their enhancements during that decade turned them into digital magnets for users. Suddenly, you could chat with friends on Facebook, share tweets that might go viral, or spend hours on Instagram, a favorite for teenagers. The social media boom changed everything. This new digital landscape, however, disrupted essential aspects of human development, particularly for children approaching puberty. The following key issues highlight its harmful effects. 1. Social deprivation. One of the most damaging effects of social media is social deprivation, a decline in face-to-face interactions. Between February 2003 and 02/2019, studies on teenagers revealed a steady decrease in the time they spent with friends in person. While social media allows online interactions, these don't replace the benefits of face-to-face connections. Research has shown that teenagers who engage in real-world interactions have better mental health compared to those who spend most of their time online. Phone-based interactions also affect the quality of relationships. Imagine talking to a friend while scrolling through Instagram or switching between apps. Such distractions dilute the connection, making interactions less meaningful. In contrast, face-to-face conversations without interruptions foster deeper bonds and emotional well-being. 2. Sleep deprivation. Another significant issue is sleep deprivation. The internet offers an endless stream of content, keeping people awake far longer than they should be. Sleep is especially critical during puberty, a period of intense mental and physical growth. Teens who get enough sleep tend to focus better, retain information more effectively, and manage their emotions with greater ease. Conversely, sleep-deprived teens are more likely to be irritable, which can strain relationships and overall health. Studies have repeatedly confirmed a strong link between excessive social media use and sleep deprivation. Teens who overuse social media during high school often struggle with chronic sleep issues later in life, impacting their productivity and well-being. 3. Attention fragmentation. The constant notifications from phones also lead to attention fragmentation. Studies show that an average person receives over 190 notifications daily, with teenagers getting one every 5 minutes. Attention is the ability to focus fully on a single task or thought. Social media disrupts this ability by constantly pulling focus away from meaningful activities. For example, imagine reading a book while your phone alerts you about tags, likes, or chats. Your attention shifts between reading and checking your phone, reducing your productivity. This multitasking not only hampers your ability to complete tasks, but also weakens your overall attention span. During puberty, teenagers develop executive functions like self-control and sustained focus. However, a phone-based childhood can delay or impair this development, leaving teens more prone to distraction and impulsive decisions. 4. Addiction. The final and perhaps most alarming issue is addiction. Social media is designed to be addictive, tapping into the brain's reward system. When you engage in enjoyable activities like eating junk food or checking your phone, your brain releases dopamine, a chemical that creates a sense of pleasure. But dopamine doesn't just make you feel good, it increases your craving for more. This is why once you start scrolling, it's hard to stop. Nir Eyal's Hooked model explains how social media exploits this craving through a 4-step loop. 1. Trigger. An external cue, such as a notification, grabs your attention. 2. Action. You respond by opening your phone to check the notification. 3rd. Variable reward. The notification might bring validation like a comment or a like, giving you a sense of acceptance. 4th. Investment. Even without a notification, you check your phone repeatedly, hoping for a reward. This unpredictability keeps you hooked. This loop explains why social media is so addictive. It creates a cycle where users chase the dopamine high, unsure of when it will come, but unwilling to stop trying. Collective action for a healthier childhood. One of the biggest challenges to creating boundaries for a healthier childhood is the social dilemma. The fear of missing out when everyone else has something you don't. This is especially true for teenagers who desperately want to fit in and be part of a group. Teenagers feel immense pressure to have a phone or be active on social media to avoid being excluded. For example, a teen might tell their parents, "But Mom, everyone at school has an iPhone. I'm the only one without a phone." Parents, understandably, find it difficult to say no. If everyone else is doing it, they fear their child will be left behind. So how do we tackle this collective action problem? The answer lies in collective responses. Through coordinated efforts, we can make meaningful changes. 1. Voluntary coordination. Parents gain strength from supporting one another. One example of this is the Wait Until 8th initiative. This program encourages parents to pledge not to give their children smartphones until they reach the 8th grade. Parents sign a document that becomes valid only when at least 10 families from the same community commit to it. This collective agreement ensures that children without smartphones won't feel isolated because their peers are in the same boat. It empowers parents to set boundaries without fearing their child will be left out. 2. Shaping social norms and moralization. Another solution is changing social norms to ensure that children without smartphones are seen as normal, not outcasts. By creating a culture that discourages constant online presence, we can help reduce the pressure on teenagers to always stay connected. For instance, societal rules have successfully changed behavior in the past. Decades ago, drunk driving was socially acceptable, but today it's considered highly irresponsible and dangerous. Laws and moral standards have shifted perceptions, and the same approach can be applied to phone use. 3. Technological solutions. Technology itself can offer solutions to this issue. For example, schools can implement lockable pouches for phones during school hours, ensuring students stay focused on learning instead of getting distracted by their devices. Another effective measure is introducing age verification systems for certain apps, making it harder for teenagers to access them without parental consent. Parents can also encourage the use of basic phones with limited features instead of smartphones, reducing exposure to social media. 4. Laws and regulations. Institutions such as governments and educational systems can implement clear rules to create boundaries between teenagers and their phones. For example, schools can require students to keep their phones in lockers throughout the day. Regulations like these establish a structured environment that helps protect children from overexposure to technology and encourages healthier habits. While these solutions may seem simple, their effectiveness depends on collective effort. Parents, schools, policymakers, and communities must come together to implement these changes and create a healthier future for the next generation. Let's recap what we've learned. First, we explored two major shifts that began in the early 2010s. On one hand, there was a dramatic rise in smartphone use among children and teenagers. On the other hand, there was an alarming increase in mental health disorders. Research has shown a deep connection between these two trends. Second, we discussed the stark differences between a play-based childhood and a phone-based childhood. A play-based childhood is slow and nurturing, built around free play, attunement, and social learning. In contrast, a phone-based childhood disrupts these critical elements, negatively impacting a child's development. Third, we examined four major harms caused by social media, social disconnection, sleep deprivation, attention fragmentation, and addiction. These effects combine to create significant developmental challenges for children and teens. Fourth, we explored collective strategies to foster a healthier childhood. These include voluntary coordination among parents, shaping social norms and moral values, using technological solutions, and implementing laws and regulations to set boundaries for smartphone and social media use. Modern technology is undeniably groundbreaking. It has saved millions of lives and made daily living more convenient than ever before. But at the same time, it's stealing something precious, childhood itself. It's undermining self-esteem, distorting how children see themselves, and reshaping what they prioritize in life. Technology often makes us feel like we can't live without it. But if you're a child or teenager, It's absolutely possible to live without being tied to a screen. Don't let your life revolve around the virtual world. Instead, connect with real people, build meaningful relationships, and engage in genuine conversations. For adults, change can only happen through collective effort. Speak up, share your concerns, and work together as a group to spread awareness about the damage caused by social media. When we connect and act collectively, we can create a powerful movement for change. Thank you for listening to this summary of The Anxious Generation by Jonathan Haidt. Remember, the well-being of the next generation depends on the choices we make today. By understanding the challenges of a phone-based childhood and taking collective action, we can create a healthier, happier future for children and teenagers. If you found this audiobook summary helpful, please like this video, share it with someone who might benefit from these insights, and subscribe to the channel for more thought-provoking summaries like this one. Let us know in the comments which part of this summary resonated with you the most. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Stay tuned for more content that informs and inspires you to make meaningful changes in your life and the lives of others. Until next time, keep learning, keep growing, and keep working toward a brighter future for all.